The Stevens Model 350 security shotgun. This is one of those shotguns that I didn't even really know existed until I saw one in a store, and it piqued my interest enough that I picked it up and looked at it, and after really taking a good look at it, I realized that this thing was well worth buying. This is an all steel construction frame, so the receiver, the barrel, the magazine tube, everything is made out of steel. The lifters and everything inside are made out of steel. It has some pretty good sights on it, and at first glance I wasn't really sure what this was. But the more I researched it, I realized that this was actually a pretty cool gun. So Stevens has long been using the term the definition of value. Really, their guns are made overseas. Sometimes they have maybe not the best features or the best quality. This one appeared to be a very good example of a firearm. So this takes 2 3/4 or 3-inch shells. The entire finish on it is just a dull black, which I really like the way it looks. And this is made by Sun City Machinery in the People's Republic of China. So this was a Chinese made gun. It has some pretty good sights on it. Has a fully adjustable ghost ring rear sight. You can adjust the windage and the elevation on this, so it does have some pretty good adjustability. And as we go down that nice flat black barrel, we have a very nice fiber optic front sight that is protected by a couple of wings on the front. So I tried to do a ton of research on this and find some literature, but there really isn't much out there except for a couple of ads. And here you can see an ad that has the 320 and the 350 listed in it, and they're still selling the Model 320. But as far as I can tell, this 350 was only made from about 2009 until maybe about 2013. And I was really only able to find out the year range of these based on posts on the internet and because I found a copy of the original manual here. And traditionally, when you find a print manual, somewhere on it, it's going to have a revision date and a revision code. So this is 11 of 2009 Rev 0, which means that the literature was basically the original version. And why is this gun so interesting? Well, if you look at it, this is a bottom feed, bottom eject shotgun. So this is a truly ambidextrous shotgun, and again, because this had a full steel receiver, this has some pretty good heft to it, and it's reminiscent of some older shotguns. This also has a takedown function, and again, it's not necessarily the takedown function that we think of today, where the entire gun breaks in half for very easy storage. Again, this is kind of reminiscent of older model shotguns that were around, going all the way back to about 1910 or 1917, where basically you slide the action open, you release the nut at the end of the magazine tube, and the barrel comes off. And in the original days of the takedown version of this, they did that so you could buy various different barrels without having to buy a new shotgun every time you wanted to change what you were doing with the shotgun. So that little nut on the end of the magazine tube has ball detents in it so that it locks in place on the barrel. The end of the barrel that goes into the receiver has interrupted threads on it, so they don't have a pitch to them. They're straight cut, and they have a notch cut in them to index into the receiver. And then again, that magazine tube nut, you basically loosen it up to tighten the barrel and tighten it up to loosen the barrel backwards, but that's the way that it works, and it does work very well. This also comes with sling swivel on the front of the barrel or on the magazine tube, and one on the back of the stock. So you don't have to worry about having to put your own sling swivels on there. It comes with them from the factory. This reminds me of a tactical style 90s SWAT shotgun, or something that the police would use, again, with those ghost ring sights. And, kind of reminds me of TV shows from the late 90s, early 2000s, where cops were all kitted out in riot gear. And that's kind of why this thing appeals to me. Just a nice flat black shotgun with really good sights on it and a pretty fast action. And again, the reason that this thing looks so familiar is because it's basically a spin-off of the Remington Model 10 and 17, as well as the Ithaca Model 37. And if you look at the Ithaca 37 next to this shotgun side by side, you can see on the receiver you have basically the same exact screw layout. The action bars and everything like that look very similar. Obviously, the Ithaca is a little bit more refined. You have some extra lightning cuts and contours on the receiver that the Stevens does not have, but they're exactly the same action. If you look at them side by side, you turn them upside down, you'll actually see they're exactly the same. Now, the Stevens has a little bit greater capacity because it's a newer firearm. A lot of the old ones only had like a 3+1 or a 4+1 capacity. I think this one has a 5+1, if I'm not mistaken, with an 18.5-inch barrel. And again, there you can see that the Ithaca 37 is a little bit more refined, not only because of all that nice scroll work and etching on it, but it has some extra contours cut into the receiver that the Stevens does not. And the reason they don't do that on the Stevens is to try to keep the cost down. If we look in the bottom of the receivers, they look almost identical. The bolt retention pins on these are both spring-loaded, but they're a little bit different in design. But effectively, they're exactly the same. The safety is in the same place. The slide release is in the same place. The triggers are in the same place. Although the trigger on the Ithaca 37 is much nicer than the Stevens. And if you look down into the action, you can see that the machine work is pretty rough inside. And again, they do that to cut down on the time that it makes to produce this while still making it functional, even though it is a little bit ugly looking. And I believe this shotgun has never been fired. Inside the barrel has a shiny clean bore, and there is still factory grease inside the receiver as well. It doesn't smell like powder. There's no burns anywhere inside it. So I really think I got a quote unquote new old stock Stevens Model 350 shotgun that probably was purchased somewhere around 2010, 2011, and it's never been fired. So this is just another add to the very cool tactical police style shotguns in the Cranky Gun Reviews arsenal. I really love these style shotguns. I love the history behind the tactical shotguns and really how they function, how they look. And at some point in time, I will do a full video just with my tactical police style shotguns. I'm getting quite a few of them now in the collection, and I really do need to get them all out side by side. So thanks again for watching another video from Cranky Gun Reviews. God bless America. Support your 2A rights. Get out there and shoot. And make sure if someone asks you to give up some of your freedom for the greater good, remind them that freedom is always the greater good. And Happy New Year.